On a crisp November afternoon, as the city of Chicago bustled beneath a pale sun, an unexpected legal decision sent ripples far beyond the city limits. In a packed federal courthouse, a judge blocked President Trump's controversial order to deploy the National Guard, sending shock waves through the White House and across the nation. The ruling was more than a legal technicality. It was a rare and forceful judicial check on the president's sweeping claims of executive authority, a reminder that even the highest office is bound by law. Inside the West Wing, aides scrambled to respond, phones rang off the hook, and the president was reportedly furious, demanding answers and exploring options for appeal. This wasn't just another lawsuit, lost in the shuffle of daily politics. It was a direct and public challenge to the president's attempt to use state-based military force against the wishes of local leaders, raising urgent questions about the balance of power in America. The judge's order made it clear, even under the guise of protecting federal property or curbing unrest, presidential power is not absolute. The Constitution, the judge wrote, sets real limits that cannot be ignored. The decision affirmed that governors and local officials have rights and responsibilities that can't simply be swept aside by executive decree, no matter the crisis. For Chicago and other cities facing similar threats, it was a moment of relief and validation, a sign that their voices mattered, and that the courts could still serve as a check on federal overreach. The decision quickly became a flashpoint in the national debate over the limits of presidential power, dominating headlines and sparking heated discussions in living rooms and newsrooms alike. A line had been drawn in the sand. The only question now was whether it would hold firm or be erased by a higher court, as appeals loomed on the horizon. Across the country, Americans watched anxiously as a new legal showdown began to unfold, knowing that the outcome could reshape the boundaries of presidential power for years to come. To grasp the Chicago ruling's impact, you have to look at the chaos since Trump's return to office in January 2025. His administration unleashed a torrent of executive actions, reshaping immigration, federal agencies, and civil rights protections. Each move sparked immediate legal battles, turning the administration's agenda into a rolling courtroom war. The strategy: push presidential power to its limits, dismantle agencies, fire career officials, and install loyalists. Lawsuits flooded in from advocacy groups and state attorneys general, challenging the constitutionality of these actions. The courts became the main battleground, with the administration often bypassing lower courts to appeal directly to the Supreme Court. The presidency became less about passing laws and more about surviving and winning relentless litigation. Every ruling now carries the weight of shaping the country's future. At the center of this legal storm stands the Supreme Court, a centuries-old institution whose decisions have shaped the very fabric of American society. Once seen as the ultimate check on executive power, the court now finds itself under intense scrutiny as it navigates a rapidly shifting political landscape. With its current conservative majority, the court has often been perceived as siding with the president, especially on issues that define the administration's agenda. This alignment has sparked heated debate about the court's independence and its role in upholding democratic norms. The court's use of the emergency shadow docket, a process that allows decisions without full public hearings, has repeatedly enabled controversial policies to take effect before thorough arguments are heard. Critics argue this approach bypasses transparency and undermines public confidence in the judicial process. In July 2025, the court greenlit the dismantling of the Department of Education and authorized sweeping federal layoffs, a move that sent shockwaves through the nation's public sector and left many questioning the future of federal oversight in education. It also allowed the newly created Department of Government Efficiency unprecedented access to Social Security data, raising concerns about privacy, data security, and the potential for political misuse of sensitive information. The court's interventions have reshaped the machinery of government at breakneck speed, particularly on contentious issues like immigration and civil rights. These rapid changes have left advocacy groups and ordinary citizens scrambling to keep up. Critics warn that the court's consistent pattern of siding with the administration risks eroding its reputation as a neutral arbiter. Legal scholars and former judges have voiced concerns about the long-term impact on the court's legitimacy. Public trust in the court has dropped to historic lows, with many Americans now viewing it as a political instrument rather than a guardian of the Constitution. This growing skepticism threatens the foundation of judicial authority. In this era of uncertainty, the Supreme Court is no longer just an interpreter of law. it has become a key player in the nation's most consequential political battles, shaping the future of American democracy with every decision it makes. In response to the administration's aggressive legal tactics, a new kind of legal resistance has taken shape, one that is both highly organized and deeply motivated by a sense of civic duty. Democracy Forward has emerged as a leading force in this resistance, bringing together attorneys, policy experts, and advocates from across the country. With a staff of 150 lawyers, paralegals, and support professionals, the organization operates around the clock, responding rapidly to new threats and legal challenges as they arise. The group coordinates hundreds of lawsuits, each one meticulously crafted to challenge Trump's policies on multiple fronts, ranging from voting rights and civil liberties to environmental protections and government transparency. Their Democracy 2025 coalition unites over 650 advocacy groups, creating a vast network of legal and grassroots power that amplifies their reach and impact. Together, they form a legal bulwark against what they see as an unprecedented assault on American institutions and democratic norms. Despite notching victories in lower courts, blocking mass firings, unlawful removals, and attempts to undermine independent agencies, most wins are short-lived, as the administration quickly appeals to higher courts. The Supreme Court looms large, often reversing lower court decisions and forcing Democracy Forward to adapt its strategies in real time. This relentless cycle of brief victories and rapid reversals has made the fight grueling, both emotionally and financially, as legal teams work late into the night and resources are stretched thin. To keep up, Democracy Forward raised $18 million in 2023, relying on a surge of grassroots donations and support from philanthropic organizations. Now, the organization aims for an ambitious $100 million fundraising goal by 2025. Hoping to sustain and expand its efforts in the face of mounting legal and political challenges. For its leader, Skye Perryman, a seasoned attorney and passionate advocate, this is more than just a legal battle. She sees it as an existential fight for democracy itself, a struggle to protect the fundamental rights and freedoms that define the nation. For Perryman and her team, this is not just a policy dispute, but a defining moment in American history. The stakes are high. Preserving the rule of law and the integrity of American democracy against an administration determined to rewrite the rules. Every lawsuit, every hearing, and every legal brief is a battle in a much larger war over the future of American governance and the values that underpin it. The outcome of this struggle will shape the nation's legal landscape for generations, determining not just who wins in court, but what kind of democracy America will be. The legal war spans city streets and federal offices, each case a front in the struggle over American governance. The deployment of the National Guard to Democratic-led cities, often over local objections, has triggered a constitutional crisis over state control. The administration's push to control independent agencies, like firing the heads of the Federal Reserve and FTC, threatens decades of precedent. Immigration remains a flashpoint, with the Supreme Court allowing the revocation of protections for hundreds of thousands and policies limiting birthright citizenship. Civil rights are under pressure as the court reinstates bans on transgender military service and enforces policies on passports and gender. Legal groups argue these moves are discriminatory and unconstitutional. The administration claims they're necessary for order. Each battleground tests the rule of law and the protection of individual liberties. Amid a string of administration victories, the Chicago ruling stood out as a powerful counter-narrative. The judge sided with the city, ruling that the president's authority to deploy the National Guard without state consent is strictly limited. He found that concerns about crime or federal property weren't enough to override state sovereignty. The detailed opinion dismantled the administration's arguments, grounding its reasoning in history and the Constitution. The decision gave hope to those seeking a check on executive power and set a strong legal precedent for other cities. The stage was set for a monumental battle at the appellate level, and likely before the Supreme Court. The Chicago victory is just the beginning. The administration's appeal will almost certainly reach the Supreme Court. The justices face a stark choice: uphold state rights or expand presidential authority to deploy military force domestically. The outcome could redefine the balance of power between Washington and the states. Other major cases are also pending, on emergency tariffs, firing agency heads, and more, each with the potential to reshape government. The country waits in legal limbo as the Supreme Court prepares to set the rules for presidential power. The precedent set now will shape the power of all future presidents. The stakes extend far beyond Trump. The very structure of American government hangs in the balance. All eyes are on the 9 justices who will decide the nation's future. These legal battles go beyond Trump. They're about the structure of American democracy itself. If the courts endorse broad executive authority, it could create an imperial presidency, weakening checks and balances. Civil rights and individual liberties are at risk, as policies on immigration and LGBTQ+ rights face constitutional challenges. The fight tests the balance between federal and state power, especially with the National Guard deployments. A win for the administration could centralize power in Washington, undermining the nation's founding principles. The Chicago ruling is a major obstacle for Trump, but it's just the start of a critical phase in this legal war. The Supreme Court's decisions will define the limits of power and the meaning of rights for years to come. This is more than politics. It's a battle for the future of the American experiment.